What's going on, you guys? It's your man James, aka JP, back again with the Toy Room, and one of my favorite consoles of all time is the Nintendo Game Boy, but more specifically, the Game Boy Advance SP. Now this is just such a versatile console for its awesome clamshell compact design. It's perfect for on the go, fits in your pocket easily, has that nice front lit or backlit screen depending which model you have. Just overall, this is always my go-to, and then obviously you can play Game Boy Advance games on here. You can play Game Boy Color and original Game Boy, so you really get the best of all of the Game Boy universe all in this one nice compact design. However, I think that we can make this better, and that's what we're going to do in today's video. We're going to try and make the ultimate Game Boy Advance SP. Now this isn't going to be modding it with like a OLED screen or, you know, a lit screen or anything like that. We're not going to be doing any like mods to it, but we are going to use off-the-shelf products that were made for the Game Boy back in the day by Intec. Now I found this whole kit on eBay for only like 40 bucks, which was a pretty good price, and in today's video we're gonna put this kit all together to try and make the ultimate Game Boy Advance SP setup. I cannot wait, so I'm gonna switch the camera angle around, we'll take a close-up look at all the items, and then we'll start to assemble the ultimate Game Boy Advance SP. Alright you guys, so here are the Game Boy SPs. I mean, this blue one's kind of in rough shape, but we don't really care about that. They're both in working condition, as you guys can see here. We'll open them up and power them on really quickly if I can find the power button. So both are in working condition and are charged, which is great. Batteries are still held up on these guys, but for now we're going to put these guys to the side because they are not going to be the star of the show. So let's go ahead and take a look at everything we need to make the ultimate Game Boy SP, and we're going to start here with just a couple games. It doesn't matter what games they are, these are just the first games that I grabbed off of the shelf, so we'll put those to the side for now and get into the actual accessories. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So this right here is the Intec Game Carrier. Now this one is kind of worn. I wonder if I take a silver Sharpie if I can touch that up, but this is a game carrier, which we'll go ahead and open up there. So just want to give close-ups of everything, and then we'll start assembling obviously the ultimate Game Boy Advance SP. Moving on, we have this awesome charging deck right here. It's a charging station, so essentially you would put the Game Boy right on this slot here, which obviously we'll demonstrate shortly, but other than that it's pretty basic. You put the power right in there, so pretty cool Intec charging deck or charging station. Moving on, this whole kit is from Intec, by the way. So we have a radio, like FM radio transmitter, which is crazy, but honestly really cool, and you'll see once we test it out earlier, it works fairly well. It is pretty simple. So you have the power on off switch, volume low and high are pretty much your only settings, scan and reset, and then this plugs into the back of the Game Boy, so that is pretty cool. Then moving on, we have a magnifying glass, which is interesting to definitely say the least. This clips onto the back screen and then kind of flips over. But yeah, you do have a magnifying glass, so we'll see how well that works. And you do have this kind of like little protective portion right here that protects the actual glass when it's not in use. But there you go, Intec magnifying glass. And then last but not least, this is what got me most excited for this whole set. It's a set of speakers. Now this is crazy. You got surround sound speakers that fold down sideways and are firing on either side of the screen. Now unfortunately, when I purchased this, it was not disclosed on eBay, which I'm in the middle of trying to see if I can get some money back for it. This left speaker, or no, right speaker, my orientation's upside down, but this speaker here is currently not working. Yeah, that's the speaker. This speaker here is not working, it's blown out. So unfortunately, we're still only getting mono sound, but it is improved sound from the Game Boy SP's you know, stock speakers, so that's very nice. And this whole design is just pretty cool. The speakers just flip up that way, and then when you're ready to use them, you flip it on, and then obviously these ports right here plug into the back of the Game Boy SP. So that's a really cool design. It's unfortunate that the speaker's blown out because the speaker also has another issue, which I'll show later. It's not a big issue. The issue that it has I can live with, but this blown out speaker is kind of disappointing. But either way, this entire set, from the speaker set here to the cartridge carrier to the magnifying glass to the FM transmitter that you have here to the charging dock, and then also not included in the kit, I did need a pair of headphones because that is the only way that you can actually use the FM transmitter right here. So this whole kit was about 40 bucks on eBay, which honestly wasn't too bad considering that other versions of just the speaker by itself go for about that much. So even though the speaker has issues, I still pretty much got a steal for all of this stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and swap the camera angle and start assembling the ultimate Game Boy SP. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is take the charging port from the Game Boy SP and plug it into the adapter, the base right here. So this is what it looks like, and it's literally just one cable going into this. Now this part really isn't like, this piece isn't really that necessary, because honestly you're just going from plugging the cable directly into your Game Boy like so. As you can see, it's charging. Actually no, you can't see, it's on this side. And why is it not charging? There we go. So now you can see it's charging. So you just go from plugging it like that to actually having kind of like a display base for it. So you go ahead, do that, and then you have to line the ports up in here like so. There we go. So now it's lined up, and this cable is a little finicky. Okay, so I don't know how well you guys can see, but there is a little red light right here. It is charging right there. It's kind of like a little finicky because I don't know if it's the cable. There we go. I think I got it. Now it's kind of stationary. So as you can see, there you go. So you have just kind of like a nice little display base if you wanted to keep this like by your bedside or something like that. So honestly, not entirely necessary, but I do think it is pretty cool, and I do like it. And if nothing else, like I said, even if I'm not charging it, it just has a nice housing for the Game Boy itself. So I think that is pretty cool. So we're gonna put that to the side, let that charge up by itself, and move on. I have my other Game Boy SP here. Actually, before we get into that, let's go ahead and do the game case, because I don't need an actual console for that. So this actually functions in two different ways. So the untraditional way that it functions, which I love that it works this way, is you can take a regular Game Boy or Game Boy Color cartridge, and it's the perfect size for this. So you can put it in there, close it, and now you have a game protected on the go. But that's not the only use for this. So if you actually look at the way that this thing is designed, it's actually pretty ingenious. So you can actually fit two Game Boy Advance games in here, which just happen to be the same size as a regular Game Boy cartridge. So if you take the top of the Game Boy here, you'll see there are little indents right here in the case that's perfectly cut out for the top of that cartridge. So you go ahead, you slide the game in there, and now you'll notice there's another indentation down here just in the other direction. So you can actually put another Game Boy Advance game in there, and it fits perfectly. So you can fit either two Game Boy Advance games or one Game Boy or Game Boy Color game in this case. So that's pretty cool. So now we got two Game Boy Advance games on the go, which is awesome, and a pretty ingenious design. So that's pretty cool. Next up, we're gonna do the radio transmitter first, because I can't, actually I probably can use the speakers with the transmitter. Can I do that at the same time? I think I can actually, but for the sake of showing everything off by themselves, first we're gonna try this standalone. So this just plugs into the back of the Game Boy in the respective slot right there. So there we go. So that is how the radio transmitter looks when it is attached. So that's pretty cool. Now it does not work unless you actually have headphones plugged in. So I think the headphones work kind of like as a receiver basically. So you put the headphones in. All right, and now we're going to actually put the headphones on. All right, headphones are on. So now we're gonna flip the Game Boy on. And we're gonna turn the volume on the Game Boy down, and then we're gonna press the power on button on the FM receiver. And now I have to hit scan so that I can find a radio station. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I found a station. You basically just have to keep hitting scan, and it's just gonna keep going through the available stations. Now, honestly, on low volume, it sounds pretty decent. Let's pump it up to high. Wow. It's pretty loud. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. So it's pretty loud at high, but it is a little distorted, but not terrible. I would listen to it on the low volume. That's like perfect. And honestly, it's not staticky or anything, so this works really well. The only thing that sucks is there is no display on here, so you can't actually tell which station you're on. But if you know your local radio stations, the more you hit scan, you can kind of figure out like where you're at and what stations are coming up. So that's how I was able to find a station that I actually listen to. So this works really well. And then, you know, you can also use a game. So let me just turn this off really quickly. Pop a game in here. So what's really good about this is you can turn it on and you can play a game, and you can just turn the volume off on the game and just vibe out to music while you play the game at the same time, with you all using the same console. So that's really cool, and honestly a game changer in my opinion. So there's a lot of games I would like to play with the volume off, and this is just great if you're playing like a puzzle game or a pinball or something like that where you don't necessarily need the volume and you want your own music. This is a really, really great option. So it could not be any happier with this. It works well, surprisingly well. I didn't think it was going to work as good as it does. So that is the radio FM transmitter. All right, so next up, I think I'm going to save the speakers for last because I think that's kind of like the most unique thing. So now we're going to go to the magnifying glass. So first I want to show you guys what the screen looks like with just the standard. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this on camera. I'm actually going to cut this ring light off really quickly so there's not like a big glare or anything like that. I mean, there's still a little bit of a glare, but that's what the screen looks like, basically standard. There we go. So now I'm going to throw the magnifying glass on, and I'll just turn this light back on just for the time being. So it's just going to slide into the slot right here. So we'll do that, and everything just kind of clicks into place. There we go. So now we're gonna flip this over and around, and then we're gonna lift that cover up. And I mean, this is definitely something. I wouldn't say if this is good or bad. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll see if you guys can tell any difference. So that's what the screen looks like regularly. Let's get that in focus. And then here is the magnifier. So it's kind of weird, because to me, to my eyes, I don't know how well you're gonna see this on screen, but to my eyes, it doesn't necessarily magnify it all that much. It just kind of almost makes it look curved, like you're looking at the front of a CRT TV. Let me just turn this back on. So this, I mean, it's ever so slightly bigger, but I don't think this is something I would want to use. Honestly, it feels like it makes the screen almost harder to see because you're looking through basically this piece of glass, and then you also have to look at this piece of plastic here before you actually look at the screen. Because if you know the Game Boy SP, the screen's kind of sunken in there. So, I mean, it's ever so slightly bigger, but I don't know if I would necessarily use this, honestly. And then with the light coming in as well, it almost gives like a blue hue or tint to this piece of glass here, and it just doesn't make the screen look as good. So in my opinion, it's a cool concept. It's just not really executed all that well, and it is a little bit heavy right here. It could just be from years of this hinge, you know, being worn out, but you know, it kind of droops a little bit as well, so it's not like perfectly up there. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this. Maybe I'll try it out. It might be better in like an all dark room where you don't have light kind of going through this glass right here. But it's kind of gimmicky in my opinion, so I don't know if I would use it. But what's really cool is when it's not in use, it actually just retracts backwards, and then this is how it looks right here. So you can actually kind of use it as like a protective case if you wanted to. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if the extra weight's gonna like have any effect on the hinge of your Game Boy, but I don't know, that's pretty cool. If you just wanted some protection and didn't want to actually use that screen as it's intended, I mean, that's pretty solid. So I'm happy with that just as protection on its own. All right, moving on to the last and final thing, it's gonna be these surround sound speakers. So, I mean, this is pretty cool. Now, a little bit of warning. I've had mixed kind of results with this. And what I mean by that is sometimes it works on the Game Boy and sometimes it doesn't. It's almost like it's drawing too much power from the Game Boy. Even on full charge and everything like that, just sometimes it stops the Game Boy from turning on. But then when I pull this off, the Game Boy turns on no problem. So I don't know if this is going to work on camera. Hopefully it does. Like I said, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I just feel like it's drawing too much power from the Game Boy's internal battery. So we'll see. But you go ahead and slot that back in there, and then you slide these speakers towards you, and then that is how it looks. So really, really cool design, especially from the front. Like, it almost looks like that's how the Game Boy was meant to look. That's probably a little bit better maybe, but let's go ahead and fire this up and see what happens. I'm gonna have the volume on full blast and just go ahead and turn it on. Okay, so it did work. So it worked this time, which is great. I'm just gonna flip this light off now so it's easier for you guys to see. And here's the thing with this. Sounds okay. Honestly, like, it doesn't sound all that great until you listen. I'm just gonna turn this down so I can talk. It doesn't sound all that great until you listen to the stock Game Boy speaker, and you notice it's actually a pretty massive improvement. Now, the issue that this one has that was disclosed on the eBay listing, when you turn the volume up and down, there is a crackle in the speaker, almost like the speaker is starting to get blown, which is probably what happened to this one. So just go ahead and take a listen. honestly, it's not even really doing it all that much now, so that issue really isn't that big of a deal. I don't know how well you guys would be able to tell on camera, but this speaker is blown out. So let's go ahead and do a working speaker closer to the camera, and then the non-working speaker. So I don't know how well you guys can hear that difference, but now I want to show you the difference from the speaker by itself in the Game Boy. So I'm going to detach this set right here and turn the volume all the way up. And it is very quiet, like crazy how quiet this is. I never realized like how quiet this speaker is. So now I'm going to plug this in and it should automatically just start working. There we go. So big difference in sound. Let me take it off. Like, it's almost laughable how quiet this is. I can't believe like that's something I've never realized. So even though this doesn't technically have surround sound right now because one of the speakers are blown and I don't think there's any way I can fix it, I mean, this sound difference alone, even with the single speaker, I mean, that speaks for itself. That is absolutely crazy. So now that we did that, I think it's time to assemble everything together as much as we can and make the ultimate Game Boy, because that's what you guys are here for, right? You saw the thumbnail, so let's go ahead and assemble the ultimate Game Boy. So I'm gonna start by, I'm gonna put the magnifying glass on first because that's probably gonna be the easiest. So we'll go ahead and slide this screen on. Okay, so we got that on. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the speakers on. And then, okay, so this is actually gonna work. So you'll see here the speakers do have a pass-through right here. So I can actually, I believe I can plug in the FM transmitter. No, I can't actually. So the orientation that this plug is in versus the orientation that this plug is in, it's not going to actually like allow me to do it because I would have to plug it in. I would have to plug it in facing this way, which would then kind of put it like that, and it would be off to the side, and the plug doesn't actually go all the way down. So the only way I'd be able to do that is if I would Dremel this clip off. If I Dremeled this clip off, it would work, but I don't want to do that because obviously I don't want to damage this at all. Dang, so unfortunately I can't use the pass-through, but what I can do is use the magnifying glass. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then flip that over. So get that into position. So now we have the magnifying glass, we have the speakers, we have the charging deck over here, we have the FM transmitter off to the side. So I mean, this thing is crazy. It's not as crazy as I would like it to be because I can't use everything all at the same time. But I mean, this honestly is the ultimate Game Boy Advance SP. Maybe, I don't know if there are any other like third-party accessories that, I don't know if there's like a grip for this that I could add to it. I don't know, but I mean, this kit all in one, for me at least, makes the ultimate Game Boy Advance SP. I mean, just with the speakers alone, which I'm surprised this is working. I don't know if it was some glitch it was having, but it's working flawlessly now with the speakers. Like I said, there were times where I couldn't even get it to turn on, but I mean, this is absurd. And just having it all together, let me cut all the lights off in the room to see how this magnifying glass looks. So I know I'm in the dark right now, but the magnifying glass does look better in the dark, but it's still not my ideal way that I would want to play. It does make the image just a little bit bigger, but I don't really feel like the image is all that small to begin with. I mean, it does make a difference. I don't know how big the Game Boy SP screen is, but it makes it look maybe like an inch bigger. So it's still not my ideal way to play, but I mean, it does do what it says it's intended to do. So I don't know. Let me know how you guys, I don't know how well you can see it, but let me know how you guys feel about this magnifying glass. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright you guys, so there it is, the ultimate Game Boy Advance SP. Like I said before, it's not as crazy as I would like it to be, but it's still ultimate in my opinion. With all this stuff combined, this FM radio transmitter honestly works a lot better than I expected and probably ended up being my favorite thing out of the bunch. The speakers would be my favorite if I didn't have like broken issues on them, but I could see the potential there, and even with the one good working speaker, it's still a vast improvement over the stock speaker on this. I never realized how quiet it was until doing this video. Having this, I've never honestly used these like game cartridge carriers, but it is cool that you can use it for a regular Game Boy game as well as two Game Boy Advance games. So it does come in handy. Probably not something I would ever use. And this charging base is not necessarily, you know, needed, but it is pretty cool and does make like a nice little display thing. And with the shape of it and everything too, it's kind of interesting. It's not just like, you know, like a normal square, a normal platform. It's got this interesting kind of geometric shape to it. So I do like that. I'll probably display one of my Game Boys on the shelf with this charger or charging station just because it looks cool. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Let me know down in the comments below what else I can do to make this Ultimate Game Boy Advance SP even more ultimate. Are there any other accessories that I need to get? Do I need to make a part 2 to a follow-up video to this video? Definitely let me know. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Those links are in the description down below. And I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. So as always, guys, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys next time.